So chapter 16 talks about basically how do certain pathogens cause disease. Do you guys have any questions for me before I start? No?
Is the presentation due today or next week?
Oh yeah, the presentation is due next week.
Okay.
It's on the 9th. All right. Okay, so normal microbiome in hosts, okay? So the normal microbiome basically, or what we call also the indigenous microbiome, this is a group of microorganisms that live either in or on our body without causing disease, okay? Some of these that make up the normal microbiome, some of them are resident microbes, meaning that they are present from birth all the way to death. Okay. Others that make up our normal microbiome are transient, which means that they are present only during a specific period and then they go away, let's say after months, sometimes after days. Okay. So normal microbiome can be either resident microbes or transient microbes. Okay. An anexic environment, this is a environment in the body that is free of microbes, For example, the womb is free of microbes, and also the central nervous system is free of microbes. Why is this important? Because this means that if that environment that's supposed to be free of microbes is introduced with a microbe, then the microbe will obviously cause infection and lead to disease. Okay. Know that the normal microbiome starts to form right at birth or right at delivery, and as a matter of fact, in the first few months of life, it is actually the normal microbiome is established. Okay, is established in the first few. Okay. So again, resident microbiome. These are the microbes that are present from birth all the way to death. And we find them where? We find them on our skin. We can find them in any tract that's lined with mucous membrane. For example, the digestive tract, the respiratory tract. These resident microbes are very important because they feed on extracellular waste and dead cells without harming our body. Why is this a big deal? Because basically what they're doing is that they are competing with pathogens for nutrients. Okay. By eating these nutrients, they leave no nutrients for the pathogenic microbes to take up those nutrients and cause disease. This is a picture that is showing us the normal microbiome depending on which anatomical location of the body we are talking about. Okay. The ones that I have crossed out in black are the ones I don't want you guys to know. These two right here in the mouth. Everything else, you gotta know it. Okay. For example, you gotta know that the nose is colonized by Staphylococcus and Corneobacterium. The vaginal flora is lined with lactobacillus, which secretes an enzyme that makes the vaginal flora more acidic. If for whatever reason a female patient takes, let's say, antibiotics that kill lactobacilli, then it would make the vaginal flora more of a basic pH level, thereby allowing the growth of yeast, leading to yeast infection. Okay, so it's very important to know this list. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So again, composition of the human microbiome. As we said, it starts right at delivery. Okay. Things that can affect the composition include breastfeeding can alter or affect the composition makeup. Also, composition of the microbiota is obviously dynamic and it changes and it differs from individual to individual. And it can actually change over time based on the individual's physiological makeup. For example, if patients have diabetes or they have cardiovascular disease, that will affect the microbiome. Dysbiosis basically means that there is an imbalance in the microbiome. When there is a imbalance in the microbiome, this is what results in disease formation. When there is an imbalance, that results in disease formation. And there are a number of things that patients can do to disrupt this balance by taking antibiotics, by living a unhealthy lifestyle, and we're going to discuss them more and more. Okay. Are you guys following me so far?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. So transient microbiome. As we said, these are microbes that live transiently in or on the body for only a limited time period, and then they disappear, okay, eventually. Okay, opportunistic pathogens. Opportunistic pathogens, these are pathogens that cause disease through a different number of different mechanisms. One way that they can cause disease, and is when the normal microbiome bacteria is introduced into another environment where it's not supposed to be. For example, if you introduce Staphylococcus aureus to the pharynx, where it's not supposed to be, that will lead to pharyngitis. Okay. Another way that opportunistic pathogens can cause disease is when there is immunosuppression, as what happens in HIV. Okay. When there is consumption of antibiotics, as I said in the example of lactobacilli. Okay. The other example of when you introduce antibiotics is obviously with Clostridium difficile or C. diff. Okay. Antibiotics, what they do is they kill normal microbiome organisms that normally compete for nutrients and consume nutrients that pathogenic microbes use in order to grow. Okay. The word disease, also known as morbidity, this is when there is injury that happens to the body that interferes with normal physiological function of the body. Notice that the word disease and infection is not the same thing. Okay. A person can be infected with a microbe and still not have disease, meaning that they still do not show signs and symptoms of the disease. This classic example of this is what happens in HIV. HIV, when a patient gets infected with HIV, for the first 6 months after infection, they have no idea that they're infected with HIV and they can be spreading it because it takes about 6 months in order for the CD4 levels to decrease and start to cause disease. Another one is carriers. carriers of the disease, asymptomatic carriers, like what's happening. Very good, Joshua. Like what happens with COVID-19 patients. Also, very good. That's another good example.